Regan Archibald is the founder of EastWest Health and a top expert in integrative and regenerative medicine. He specializes in peptides, stem cells, and blends Eastern and Western practices for high performance and longevity. He's run 10,000 plus advanced labs, written 9 books, and helps high performers reverse biological age. Regan is an international speaker and is the author of 9 books, including The Peptide Blueprint and Ageless Future. His podcast, Ageless Future, has featured thought leaders from many industries. Regan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with you, man. One of my next to mindset and psychology of performance, health, longevity, wellness is my biggest passion. So I'm excited to tap into your genius and ask you some fun questions.
Man, well, hopefully I can supply something interesting. I'll do my best.
Let's see. I'll let you know at the end. I'll give you a grade. But so you work at the intersection of integrative and regenerative medicine. What's the key difference between biological and chronological age?
Well, if you look at this new opportunity that we have with medicine today, I call it medicine 4.0, is what we're engaged in because there's innovations that can literally turn back the clock. And we used to say this, and even Eastern medicine, its core philosophy is built around immortality. Essentially, is what the emperor wanted. He wanted to live forever, and you see all these. You can read about stories where the emperors tried the magical elixir and they ended up dying because most of it was like mercury. They had, very little understanding of the damage to the body, and they kept repeating it for several generations. So what used to be kind of science fiction, it sounded too good to be true. You're seeing, I mean, you look at Brian Johnson and whatever you think about his strategy. I mean, he's actually measuring himself. He's an N of one, and if you look at what he's been able to do, he's literally reversing his age. Go work out with him. And I had a chance to spend time with him. I'm like, yeah, he's legit. You look at clients that walk in and out of my office. I mean, we have a 77-year-old lady, and she can do a dead hang for like almost 2 minutes. And another lady that could barely walk from her couch to her kitchen because her neuropathy was so severe. And her name's Tony. And my team just took her to the top of Sunset Peak in Utah. She climbed, she was able to hike about 8 miles and without pain. And I mean, it's just like, so we see these radical transformations in people's health. And so when you think of biological age versus chronological age, there's nothing we can do about the trips you've taken around the sun. Like those are good. Like you want to keep those years. That's wisdom. But what we can do is the damage that it does to the physical body as you take those trips around the sun. And even today, we'll talk about some of the innovations that can, easily get you there without risking your future health.
I love that. Ageless future right there. I love it.
That's it.
Um, I met Brian Johnson in Vegas. I spoke he was at the Bitcoin conference. I spoke right after him. And
Cool.
I love him, man. He's definitely very polarizing, which I think is smart, right? It gets people's attention. And
Yep.
again, you could agree or not agree with some of the things he says, but he's definitely moving the needle in the right direction, I believe, for humanity to tap into greater longevity like yourself as well. So that's awesome. So in terms of, I'm curious, how did you get into all this anyway? What's your background? What got you into longevity
Oh,
and all this stuff?
it started. I grew up on a cattle ranch in Idaho, and I learned the power of healing. I used to run around in cowboy boots, so like it was like I would literally move sprinkler pipe. I was probably running 10 miles a day just in cowboy boots, and it ended up creating some pretty severe foot issues for me that required surgery when I was about 15. And during the surgery, my dad gave me this book called Inner Athlete by Dan Millman, and then this Mega Memory by Kevin Trudeau. So I put on the cassette tapes, and I was like, I didn't want any homework in high school, and so I was like, I'm just gonna really, while I have downtime, I'm gonna master my memory so that I don't have homework, and it worked. But I learned the power of visualization through that process, and actually would visualize my feet healing. And yes, I was young, but I remember going back to the podiatrist and he's like, "Whoa, we can take you out of your boots already. Like your healing is so much faster." And so that got me motivated. And then when I was in my undergraduate work at the U, I got sick. And I just thought, I wanted to be anything but a cattle rancher when I grew up, and my uncle was a doctor. So I was studying my pre-medicine work. And I had my own health crisis that was misdiagnosed by 5 different doctors. And it was a naturopathic doctor who was also an acupuncturist
Mm.
who ran the right labs and said, "Regan, you've got an autoimmune disease. Have you ever been exposed to chemicals?" And I was like, "No, no chemicals. I grew up on a farm." And then I was like, "Well, is Roundup a chemical?" He's like, "Yeah, I get, crop dusted by planes. I used to spray Roundup all the time." And then what really triggered it is we would dip the fence post in formaldehyde for better preservation. And when I was in the anatomy lab spraying the cadavers with the formaldehyde, that's when it exacerbated all the symptoms where I was just brain fog, my joints ached. And so that doctor helped me relate back to the environmental toxins as part of the issue, and that I had autoimmune disease. It wasn't that I was stressed because I was taking too many classes. And that's really how I got into this health optimization, is understanding the power of visualization and how the body can heal itself, and then having my own crisis and setback and realizing like visualization wasn't touching it, and I had to actually do some real therapy.
Wow. Were you able to heal the autoimmune disease?
Yeah, so I ended up going to school in Hawaii, and that's where I studied more integrative medicine and studied Eastern and Western medicine there. And then got my autoimmunity under control, at least. It wasn't in remission. My antibodies were still elevated. And then it wasn't until about 5 years into my practice when we got into stem cell therapy. And stem cells are what put my Hashimoto's in remission for good. And so I've been in remission, where my antibodies have stayed below 30 on my TPO for just about 14 years.
Wow, that's incredible. So I got to ask you a question about that because I know two people have Hashimoto's. So what would be what are your suggestions for first steps for them to heal themselves? You obviously said a little bit of your story, right? So it says some of it, but can you give a couple of steps for them to take?
Yeah, so I think for anybody, if you're looking at the root cause, that's what you want to do, is you want to, the one condition, you want to fix 1,000 different things by solving that one problem. So, and that's where if you just look underneath it all, you say, okay, well, we call it the epic triggers. If you can remove these epic triggers, then your body actually has a chance. So that's, making sure you've got your emotional traumas. That's a big trigger. If there's any pain in your body, if there's infections, and then chemicals. And so the one thing that happens is when you can remove those epic triggers, that's when people can start to heal. So generally speaking, with Hashimoto's, you want to look for, there's always an infection base, so some kind of like Epstein-Barr viral infection. If you had mono when you're a kid, Lyme disease is a big trigger for it. And then you also want to look at any kind of chemical exposure. And by chemicals, it can also be food like gluten and dairy. Those proteins, they're mimicries, and so our body sees them as a threat, and so that can actually exacerbate your autoimmunity. But if you get rid of those foods right out of the gates, there's a lot of good you can do. And then stem cells and peptides. It's getting the right labs ran.
Mm.
But yeah, generally speaking, just say avoid the things that you love, like no pizza, no cheeseburgers, like all those things. Like gluten and cheese together is deadly for thyroid issues.
Yep, it's incredible. Ben Franklin's quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
That's
It's
it.
like I stopped eating all that crap and I feel so much better, right? It's amazing. Speaking of labs and blood panels, you've looked at over 10,000. What's the single most common pattern that you see that screams accelerated aging?
Oh, there's a marker called anion gap. And most doctors overlook this. They don't really spend much time on it because it's just an equation that looks at all the electrolytes. and in your blood at the time, but it's a massive reflection of your vagus nerve. And so the vagus nerve is the wandering nerve. It connects the brain to the gut. And in looking at labs, I find that so many entrepreneurs are eating great, they're doing all the right things, they're exercising, but their anion gap is really high. And I ask them, I'm like, how's your stress levels? They're like, oh, I'm fine. I handle stress totally well. I mean, you and I have conditioned ourselves as entrepreneurs, like we understand things are not always going to be the same, and we like the unpredictability of it. But
Hmm.
what we don't realize is we know when we need to push on the gas, just how much resources are required to get us where we want to go in the next evolution of our business. And so the anion gap is this like it's a secret weapon because you can look to see the amount of resources that are going out on a regular basis. And that's the marker that shows if you're pushing the gas too hard, if you're risking burnout, you won't recover as well from your workouts. You'll notice your sleep starts to get disrupted. A lot of people with high anion gap, they don't digest food well because one of the big signs of having metabolic acidosis. So your nutrient signaling gets turned down, your protein dysregulation, your protein
Mm.
synthesis, that all gets turned off. And so it's harder to build muscle. And you end up having a lot of acid reflux and bloating. So anion gap, it's the brain and gut connection. And I think that's where, healing and longevity really starts.
How do you spell that?
Anion gap.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, I know the vagus nerve is super crucial for everything in your body, and I never heard of that before. The anion gap. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's a not very well understood or looked at metric, but it's your adrenals. It's the HPA axis, right? Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal response, and then how well is your vagus nerve communicating with your brain?
Wow. Very cool. And you can test that. Did I miss you saying that somewhere? How do
Oh yeah,
you
it's just
measure
a
that?
blood test. Yeah, we
Oh, it's
do
a
it on
blood. Okay, there's
all our
biomarkers for that. Okay,
absolutely.
got it. And those are looking at Ageless Future and what you guys do there. You guys start with people doing the blood labs and checking, I think over 100 biomarkers I read somewhere
Yeah,
on your
at
website.
130. Yeah, we look at all the hormones, the thyroid markers, autoimmunity,
Yeah,
cardiovascular, liver. In some cases, my team, you'll do a health span assessment, and then my team, we may even run mycotoxins or certain biotoxin panels for you.
incredible. That's awesome. Can people do this with you guys virtually at home? You guys could send them like a
Yeah.
blood panel to take and they can just do it all from where they are. And you guys would just do it virtually. Yeah.
Yeah, we can help them find a phlebotomist in the area. And so we just send a
Yep.
phlebotomist to them, or they can go to a LabCorp request and we can run it. But we're licensed in all 50 states. And so we have the ability to work with you pretty much wherever you are. We have a lot of clients in Europe as well.
Nice. That's amazing. I love that. I want to talk to you more about peptides. You mentioned that too as a therapy to help with the Hashimoto's and other things. But before
Yeah.
I do, I want to go back to the biological versus chronological age. And I want
Okay.
to ask you, I actually just got I don't know if you wear the Whoop. I'm wearing I got the new Whoop MG device. I wear it on my arm.
Oh,
Do you wear this
nice.
at
I
all?
have a Garmin.
Oh, cool. Nice. That's great. Garmin's are like
I like the Garmin too.
super high tech. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's cool because now I have my biological age, which was cool to see because I'm 39, but it says I'm 3 point something years younger than my chronological. Yeah.
Based
So,
on your
but
fitness scores.
yeah, based on my
Yep.
fitness scores. The
Yep.
thing that made the biggest difference for me was my weight training, it said. And then I'm also pretty good at consistent sleep wake time, which I remember Brian Johnson, he said that. And I also had Kristen Holmes, who's one of the VP of science at Whoop on my podcast. And I asked her, I'm like, what's the most important thing for sleep? And she's like, it's consistent sleep wake time if there's like one thing to focus on.
Oh, yes. And that's Garmin gives me a score too as far as my fitness goes. And one thing we've created is a longevity quiz where you can see the age of all of your organ systems based on some simple tests people can do at home, like grip strength, looking at your waist circumference. Even looking at your VO2 max, like VO2 max is probably the biggest predictor. I mean, the research shows that if you can be in the elite status in VO2 max, you reduce your cause of all cause mortality goes down 404%. Like there's nothing that even comes close to improving your VO2 max. So yeah, that's one reason I got into Garmin. I had a doctor out of Norway who's done all the research on the devices,
Yeah.
and so we took a deep dive into it, and he's like, yeah, for heart rate variability and VO2 max, nothing compares to the accuracy of Garmin. So I was like, all right,
Mm.
that's what I'm doing because once I saw that research, then I set out, I spent a year just getting my VO2 max to the elite level. And so how's does Whoop, how accurate's the VO2 max on that? I've heard good things, but
I don't know how accurate it is. I'm pretty sure it's pretty accurate. I know a lot of people use it. I do love Garmin's amazing. I used to have a Garmin. Garmin's like way more technical, which is great. But I just like the simplicity of what I do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate it actually is, but right now it says 36. It says I'm reversing aging by 0.2x right now at this
Yeah, it's so good,
rate.
man. Well
Yeah,
done.
it just makes it simple. With VO2 max, I agree, man. I'm an athlete. I played basketball in college and I love breath work, but I also tell people, I'm like, man, the best breath work is to go exercise, like go run and go sprint, right?
Break a
Um,
sweat.
yeah, exactly, right. And then go do breath work too, and do both, right? Not either or. But VO2 max, I agree. What is how did you do that? Like, because you got serious about it, right? The doctor said, hey, you should start working on your VO2 max. What'd you
Yeah.
do to start improving it?
Well, I just started, so I do ski erg, if you know what that is,
Oh
like the
my
upper
God,
interval.
dude.
So I do 10,000 meters once a week, and I'm down
At a
to
clip,
like,
do you do like a 10,000 straight or do you
yeah, I'm
intervals
trying
or
to
what?
get 39 minutes is my goal, and I'm at 41 right now, but that's
Wow,
still
that's
like the
great.
competitive level. I mountain bike, I run, ski and snowboard, but I got really intentional on the Norwegian, the 4x4 training. And so twice a week I would do, it's 4 minutes where you're just doing kind of moderate pace and then 4 minutes really high pace. And you just
Mm.
do that, it's a 30-minute workout and that makes a big difference. So I do that twice a week and
What's
uh,
that called? That's called Norwegian training.
Norwegian 4x4.
4x4.
It's the most
Cool.
heavily documented strategy for VO2 max, and then just using mitochondrial peptides. So I'm fortunate because I have access to the latest science and the latest peptides. So one of the peptides that I noticed a huge jump in is a peptide called Sloop 332.
Mm.
And this peptide, it's a mitochondrial, it works on the mitochondrial pathway. So it helps with clearing out old mitochondria, so mitophagy, mitogenesis, you get new mitochondria. But interestingly enough, it was discovered out of St. Louis University, hence the name SLU, PP. But what they
Mm.
found is that in mice, after a single administration of this molecule, they're able to run 70% farther. And so endurance on this is ridiculous. And it works on an estrogen receptor. And this particular receptor is what regulates your body's metabolic function. It actually regulates circadian rhythms, so it helps me sleep better. And it's a great one for building muscle mass. So this is like it's an exercise mimetic, similar to like MOD-SC, 5-amino-1-MQ. This is probably what propelled me where my VO2 max, it didn't take me long. I mean, I was already pretty fit, but I was like in the excellent category. And so it took about 3 months to get into the elite. But I think the Sloop was the big game changer.
What's the name? The peptide is SLUPP. That's the name of the peptide.
Yeah, SLUPP 332. I know. It's not, my wife's like, can you change the name? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, babe. I know it sounds ridiculous.
Yep. Well, it is interacting with our DNA, right, and our code. So it makes sense that these are kind of code words and letters and numbers.
That's it.
That dude, the ski erg is insane. Me and my friends here in Puerto Rico, we do ski erg. We have a competition for the 250 meter, 500 meter, 1,000 meter. My fastest. Have you ever measured your 250 meter yet or
Oh
no?
yeah, yeah.
My fastest that I've gotten is 43 seconds,
That's
and
fast.
that's like I'm like gassed. It's like I'm
That
gonna
is
pass
so
out.
fast. My
It's
so My sons, I have two 18-year-old boys or 19-year-old now, and we'll race on that. So we'll do 250 or we'll do fastest to 1,000 meters, and it's such a good workout.
Yeah.
You got to
Yep.
put in the 10,000. Have you done
Uh,
10,000 meters?
I've not done 10,000 myself as like a marathon, so to speak. Not that it's a marathon, 30, but what do you say? 30 minutes, right? Is what you're trying to get, or
Well,
29?
no, no. I'm 41 minutes right now. I'm trying to get to 39.
Yeah.
If you could do it in 30 minutes, holy cow.
That's
Yeah.
insane then. Yeah. I don't remember the score you said, but yeah, 40, whatever, 41. I haven't tried that. I will now. We've tried intervals of like 10,000 meters and we rotate between like 1,000 meters at a time and we just rip it 1,000
Yeah.
at a time. But I like that idea of just like going 10,000 meters straight. That's a great one.
Well, and what I do just because you're into it is I'll do 750 meters, just kind of moderate, and then the last 250, I just go push it hard,
Uh,
and then go a little slower because you don't want to necessarily go at the same pace. You want to keep for VO2 max. You want to hit the higher numbers. So, uh,
yep,
but yeah, give it a try. Let me know how it goes.
totally. What's your record for 250?
I can't remember, but I know 43 seconds is really fast. I know I'm right
Yeah,
in range, so
cool.
I'll shoot you a text. We can have our own little competition.
Yeah, I was
You're
gonna
in
say.
I'm in Utah, you're in Puerto Rico, but we need to create a whole movement on this because it's such a fun exercise.
It is, man. Yeah, I have a group of like 9 guys. Maybe we'll connect you because I'm always looking for people to like break. The best guy in our group, my friend Willie, it was his first time. He's a beast. He's from Austin, like 6'5", and he just ripped it open and he got 41 seconds. I was like, wow. So nobody's
So
beat 41
fast.
yet. I know the world record's way beyond that, but it's such an insane workout. And the fact that my hamstrings, my glutes are just so tired, even more than like my arms and my upper body. It's such a great total body workout.
Yeah. Yep. And
Yeah.
it doesn't put pressure on the joints. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
I'm such a big runner and mountain biker, and I'm just like have this itch to go and do it too much, which leads to injuries. And so I jump on the ski erg and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, interesting. My WhatsApp. Um, and that too, speaking of VO2 max again, what I've started to focus on more is the heart rate training versus again like lifting weights or whatever. I'm like, oh, cool. How can I get in zone 3 for a certain amount of time for the week, or zone 4 or zone 5
Yeah.
for a certain amount
Yep.
of time? Which sounds like you do that too. And I'm sure the Norwegian one is designed around that too, like you said, right? 4 minutes, I guess 4 minutes in like zone 3 to 5, and then 4 minutes.
It's yeah, it's like zone three. And
Yeah.
then you're going 4 minutes where you're like up in 4 to 5. So you're like zone
Wow.
two, zone three, right in between there. And then you bump up to zone four, zone five for 4 minutes, and then you cycle back down. And you can, I'll do like an upright row, then I'll get on the treadmill, and then I'll get on a stationary bike, and then I'll do burpees, something like that. I mean, you can mix it up to four different
Yep.
exercises if you want to like really get next level.
That's awesome. I love that. Do you have a Garmin that you recommend for people that want to try out a Garmin?
Oh, the Front Runner 265 is like it's very inexpensive because they have some very expensive kinds, but it's got all
Mhm.
the tech you need.
Nice. Cool. Awesome. Um, I wanted to ask you about the what's again, I'm sure there's a lot of strategies, but what's again first step or any step to start reversing aging if people want to start reversing their biological aging speed?
Well, if you look at the literature, one of the studies that was published by Circulation, I believe it was 2019 or 2020, and what they found is that people who exercised 400 to 600 minutes a week had a reversal of all-cause mortality by 27 to 31%, depending on what study that they looked at. So this, they looked at all the literature that was out there, and that's what they found is, that's the single thread is you can't, well, in my opinion, it's not very enjoyable if you're not physically active. Like that's
Yep.
one of the things that drives me every day. I have what's called the 30-30 model, and I train my clients like don't just exercise once a day, twice a day. And I'm not saying like push yourself crazy twice a day, but lift weights, jump rope or whatever in the morning, and then in the evening, afternoon, jump on a mountain bike or play pickleball. But you want to keep your body as active as possible, and that would be the first step. Is find something that we call enjoyable activities. You want to create
Mhm.
ageless experiences where it's like you could see yourself doing this activity for a long time. Like you and I, Naeem, will probably be doing the ski erg when we're 80, and we'll still be like competing against ourselves and maybe other people, right? Just because the fun nature of that exercise. I don't want to do it every day. It's not that fun, but I do want to like mountain bike, hike. I want to do those things on a regular basis too. So the step one, if you want to reverse your age, is figure out how to move your body in ways that's enjoyable.
Mm, so true. I agree. That's the best way. Do something that's fun. Sports, to me, sports is the best way to stay in shape. I would never run as I played soccer the other day with a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 50-year-old. And I would never run as hard as I did on that soccer court on a treadmill, right? Or
No,
doing
not at
sprints.
all.
Yep. So
Yeah,
true. I agree. Um, what's your well, I know you said mountain biking. Is there another go-to sport that you like to do?
yeah, anything on a bike, but then
Yeah.
I love skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah.
Those are
Nice.
phenomenal. So yeah, and then I ride dirt bikes.
Nice. Cool. That's awesome. Mountain biking's fun. I've done it a few times. Once I went in the Dolomites, which was beautiful up in the Alps. Um,
Nice,
yeah, it's insane. It's crazy what those bikes can do. Just
isn't
ripping up
it?
the rocks and also flying down. I'm not like an expert, but my friend and his dad are. So it was cool. It's pretty amazing and it's very fun and great workout.
Oh, I love the Dolomites. I
Yeah.
mountain biked in Switzerland and Italy, and not the Dolomites in Italy, but more in the Riviera and
Wow. Yeah.
so fun in Europe. I mean, they have their mountains done right. Like you go on
Oh, they
hikes,
do.
the warming hut is like, oh, I can get a 5-course meal here, a bottle
Yeah.
of wine. Some
Yep.
warming hut.
Yeah. It's true. And you guys must have great trails too, where you are in Utah as well.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love my wife and I do downhill mountain biking, and so we do all the crazy. Like I still do like all the jumps, the gaps, the flow trails, all that stuff.
Nice. Very cool. So I'm looking at your website, Ageless Future. And by the way, for people that want to connect with Regan about this, you guys could go to what is it? Agelessfuture.com/peak humans. If you guys want to connect with him and his team, I definitely suggest you do, if especially if you haven't done any blood work or just want to start dipping your toe in. It'll change your life. But I'm looking at your website, and it says after the 10,000 plus labs, typical patient results 2 times increase in energy, 82% sleep improvement, 5 pounds increase lean muscle mass, 30 pounds average weight loss, and 93% overall health and well being. That's incredible.
The results are and this is because with peptides, it's so much more predictable. The first 10 years of my practice before we really got deep into peptides and regenerative medicine, it would take us a long time, and we could, it was like 60-70% of the people we worked with, we got them pretty good results. But then once I started layering in peptides, that's where we saw the predictability, where we can run somebody's
Mm,
labs and we can accurately know exactly what it's going to take to get them to a health optimized level. And usually it's 6 to 12 months, whereas it was, 3 to 5 years if we could even get them there before this type of medicine. And I do call it medicine 4.0 because, Peter Achia, he introduced the world to medicine 3.0,
mm,
and he's just a phenomenal longevity doctor. But he's very conservative in the fact that there's all these novel opportunities, and we can take advantage of it right away because we've seen the safety profiles. Yes, a lot of the peptides you could argue that they haven't gone through the proper clinical trials on humans, but we know the mechanism of action, and these peptides they're broken down usually within 5 to 30 minutes, so they don't have a long half-life. There's not a toxic accumulation. Your body doesn't become dependent on it, and so what it does is it creates this advantageous avenue to start expressing cells in ways that we only express them when we're younger. And that's, I'm always looking for an advantage because I'm competitive with myself, and I have 19-year-old boys who are insanely athletic. And so I've got some incentive, but everything on the protocol side, once you have your lab work, the medicine 4.0 is where you start going ahead of the aging process and you start reversing it. And that's where we're even seeing in the gut, we run stool tests. And then a lot of our clients, we have them do fecal matter transplant therapy. And
Hmm.
that therapy is just game changing because you can get a young donor. And by the way, it's odorless, colorless. So don't get the weird idea. It's just an oral capsule. But we're seeing dramatic turnarounds in people's inflammatory markers. We're seeing their aging just reverse that much faster because the gut biome is so central to everything, that symbiotic relationship we have. And so many people have eaten a diet that's, even if you're eating organic, there's very few foods that are actually organic in the United States. If you don't believe me, go eat the same way in Europe that you do here, and you'll be shocked at how much weight you lose, even though you probably will end up eating more food there.
It's incredible. Yeah, every time I go to Italy or somewhere in Europe, I feel I'm eating pizza, gelato, pasta, but I don't feel bloated or heavy or any of that stuff. And I know Europe has way stricter standards for their what's allowed in the food than the
Yeah.
US does. Yep.
One of my clients has a big venture capital firm, and they own 2,000 Burger Kings in Europe. And he's like laughing. He's like, I know. I'm like, so are you working with me just out of guilt? And but really, if you look at the ingredients in the United States or anywhere else that Burger King has restaurants, it's completely different than what's allowed in Europe. So to your point, like they protect their food and they have laws. Like
Yeah.
a baguette in France, it's got 4 ingredients. If it has anything more than that, it's not a baguette and you will get fined. It's pretty cool.
Yep. So good. I love that they do that. They do a great job at that. With respect to the peptide, there was something else you said, but I forgot. I wanted to ask you, but let's go back to the peptide stuff. You have the peptide pathway bypass. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's our patented process. And this has been over a decade of work where I've looked at the pathways that peptides work the best on. So using one peptide alone, like a lot of people are using GLP-1s and they lose weight, but then it turns out they're mostly losing muscle. And
Hmm.
when they get off the GLP-1, something like Ozempic or Mounjaro, the gains come right back and it's not sustainable. And so when you look at peptides, what we discovered in looking at the patients who got better in the shortest amount of time, felt the best, even though they had prognostic data that would show that it is going to take longer, what we realized, like if you can stack peptides to work on the right pathways at the right time, that's where you can have this unreasonable outcome in people's health. And so, like if you're using a GLP-1, for example, what we found is if you stack BPC 157 with it, which helps the gut because it's delaying your gastric emptying, that's one of the reasons it works because you feel fuller longer. But you want to protect your gut barrier because if you have food that's not being digested at the appropriate rate, you're going to have fermentation issues and you're going to have infections that can creep up as a side effect. But we found if we had BPC 157, not only would that help the gut lining, but it would also help build muscle and help in recovery. And then if you add in a growth hormone when you're working with BPC, like tesamorelin, ipamorelin, sarcotropin, adding one of these growth hormones, then people started to build muscle and their body composition just took enormous changes and it didn't require any kind of anabolic support. And so that's what the peptide bypass is. Or if you're working on, an issue where you've got anxiety and you've got digestive issues, then there's, peptides like Selenk or cerebrolysin for the brain, and it's turns on GABA and relaxes the nervous system. And you can use that with KPV and another peptide called lorazepam, and both of which are made in your gut. And so those peptides help activate the neurotransmitter production from the bacteria in your gut. So yeah, there's so many pathways, and when it comes to muscle building, I look at three core pathways. That's the brain, the heart, and the muscles. And those are the three primary organs that you want optimized as you enter into your ageless future, because none of us want to get to 80 and have Alzheimer's, right? It's like I'm super ripped, but my brain doesn't work. Likewise, if you don't have good muscle mass, your joints are going to deteriorate and you're going to have a lot of problems with mobility, and you won't be able to do the activities that you'd love, because the muscles are what supports the joints, but also you need good, healthy muscle mass for glucose regulation. And healthy muscle helps maintain hormones. It also helps us feel confident about ourselves. Anybody, and even, like the famous, longevity enthusiast, Charles Euster, he was a retired dentist. He took up bodybuilding at the age of 87, and he gained like 22 pounds of lean muscle. And at that age, and people asked him, they're like, well, why did you want to start lifting weights at such an old age? And he said, well, there's a lot of sexy 70-year-olds and I'm trying to turn their eye. So yeah, muscles, like, it's more than just vanity. It actually helps stabilize your immune function. It protects your joints. And the main thing is your metabolic system. And then from a heart, what we mean is by your cardiovascular system, because
Mm.
if you can have really good oxygenation throughout your body, really good circulation, that's going to help you be able to not only do the activities that you love to do, but that's your nutrient supply. It's kind of like if your vascularity is not healthy, it's like having no water in rivers, like the trees are going to die. And so those are the three main organ systems that we found, that there's a peptide bypass for each one of those. And that's where we see people get incredibly healthy in short periods of time.
Wow. I agree 100%. And I've been taking peptides since last year, BPC 157, TB 500. I started doing CJC 1295 ipamorelin with that. And it's amazing stuff. It's if you know the right dosing and you still have the lifestyle and the habits to surround it, it's incredible. It's like a superpower. But again, if you have a team like you, right, and your team at EastWest Health, it's like I have a scientific director I work with. There's a company in Aspen called Bay State Longevity that I work with. So they help me on that end, but it's so helpful to have a team like yours that's guiding you every step of the way and like getting that stack appropriate for you, right?
Totally. Yeah, it makes a
Yep.
huge difference.
Yep. And I also love that you do. I used to love, I still do, Andrew Weil, right? Because integrative
Oh
medicine,
yeah,
East
yeah, of
West.
course.
So I love that you're blending both, right? It's not Western medicine or it's not Eastern medicine or just like esoteric. It's both, right? It's not either
Right.
or. It's hard for people to kind of do that. Most of us are in like a binary, dualistic kind of mindset. But I love that you bring both those worlds, right? You got the alternative ways of doing things that sometimes are more useful. And then you also have the scientific Western medicine ways of doing things that are also useful as well in different contexts.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
Yes. I think things that worked for humans 3,000 years ago still work today. I mean,
Yep.
acupuncture, there's no way acupuncture would still be around if it didn't work, because they're using like bone splinters, or, and like these really archaic tools to stimulate the acupuncture points. But now we've seen like the science is irrefutable. It does work. I mean, there's herbal medicines. You look at cordyceps or astragalus, they have the same expression of the AMPK pathway as a lot of the peptides do. A lot of
Mhm.
people are using like rapamycin, for example, for longevity. I'm like, well, maybe you should consider looking at cordyceps, astragalus, ginseng. Those all turn off mTOR as well.
Yep. So cool, man. When you understand the science and you do the research and you're educated about it, there's so many ways to go about it. Very cool. I'm looking at this now too. Your ageless muscle, ageless brain, ageless heart.
That's it. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What in terms of regenerative therapies, we talked about stem cells, how it helped you with your autoimmune disease. Uh, and actually, before we get there, real quick, I didn't even ask you the basic question for people that don't know, and I heard you on your on your podcast, Ageless Future, define it. What is a peptide for people that don't know what that is? What is a peptide?
Peptides are just short chains of amino acids, so they're signaling molecules that your cells secrete. And so, just like you send a text message, you and I text each other. That's the same way peptides work. It's a short-term communication network. And peptides turn on specific genes in the cell, so they dock on the surface of the cell. And then if you can activate the right gene at the right time, that's where you start noticing
Mm.
enormous changes in your health. So from an epigenetics perspective, peptides are your bypass from the epigenetic dangers.
Very cool. Awesome. So stem cells,
Yeah.
exosomes, and exosomes, can you define them first? That made me think of the peptides to define, but can you define them? And then I'll ask you that question about what's working with them.
Yeah, so if you think a stem cell, if you look at your body, it's comprised of about 220 different cells. And each one of those cells are in the hierarchy of a particular tissue or gland. And so, like your liver has particular cells, your eyes have cells, your skin, and all of these cells comprise, make up our organism. So, what stem cells are is they are new cells that don't yet have a command. They're not differentiated down a specific lineage. And so with stem cells, what you'll find is as we age, we don't have the cells to repopulate cells that you're losing because even during this podcast, you and I have lost, billions of cells, I'm sure by the end of it. And it's like, well, okay, where's the recurring cells so that we can continually get rid of cells that are expired or underperforming and bring new cells on. And that's what stem cells do.
Mm, incredible. Yep. And exosomes?
Exosomes are just vesicles that the stem cells secrete. So if you think of mesenchymal stem cells, first and foremost, these were renamed medicinal signaling cells by Arnold Kaplan. And so what they are is they send out little exosomes, which are vesicles that can go and turn on your body's own resident stem cells. Exosomes have been shown to help decrease inflammation. They reverse some of the tissue damage in areas. We've seen it work very effectively in people who have like kidney disease or diabetes. They're kind of the noise. They turn up the volume of the stem cells.
Got it. Cool. When would be an appropriate time for somebody to consider using stem cells or exosomes?
Well, anytime if they're interested in reversing their age, then there's certain treatments for that.
Mm.
But the treatment that's had the most profound impact on me and probably more than any other treatments we do is a treatment called intranasal stem cells. And so I used to have pretty severe ADHD, couldn't sit still in class. I had a lot of concussions when I was a kid. And I was at a stem cell conference and I heard Arnold Kaplan talking about the fact that stem cells don't make it through the blood-brain barrier. And he said, but we found a novel bypass, and that's through a device called the SphenoCath, where you put stem cells into the back of the sinuses and you keep your head tilted back so that the stem cells can migrate through the olfactory nerves and the sphenopalatine ganglion. And I was the first patient outside of a clinical trial to have it done. This was 12 years ago. And that night I went to bed and I slept 11 hours. And it was like I was watching a movie of my life where everything was being consolidated, like all the files were being organized nicely, kind of what like when your desktop gets too full on your computer. And I woke up the next morning and I could hear birds chirping. And my brain was quiet for the first time in decades. I mean, I used to practice Zen Buddhism just to try to get still. And I was like, my monkey mind is, it's not going anywhere. And I just finally had to like give up essentially. But once I had the stem cell treatment, changed everything. That's when I started writing books, created medical curriculums. It was like I was a new human. So if anyone's had any kind of brain injuries, or if you've noticed memory slipping, if you've been exposed to mycotoxins, lived in moldy places, had Lyme disease, that is a great time to consider stem cell therapy.
What was the one that you did that you said that you put in the back of your brain?
It's called intranasal stem cells.
Intranasal. And that it sounds like anybody could do, kind of like BPC 157, where it's going to help you heal and recover.
Yeah, yeah, and in some cases where people, they don't have any symptoms per se, but they do it prophylactically,
Yeah.
they still notice that they feel like a little sharper mentally. But we
Yeah.
profound differences. One of our Olympic athletes, she's on the cycling team. She was just out a couple weeks ago, and she had an accident where a car turned right in front of her, and so massive concussion. She had to wear a hat and sunglasses, so she had a lot of photosensitivity, and she'd been struggling with it for about a month, and it was finally after a month that she could fly into the clinic. And literally within an hour of treating her intranasally, she took her sunglasses off and then she started working on the computer, helping people on the team out. Like that was one of the most profound cases that I've seen. We had another Canadian Olympic hockey player, and she got a concussion. The coach, they took her out for 90 days, which is protocol. And then she got back into practice. The day she got back into practice, another concussion. And it was about 3 months where she was just depressed. She couldn't go out in the sunlight because the concussion was so bad. And same thing with her. She flew down to Utah, and we treated her. And within 2 weeks, she was like, it's like all the lights turned back on. So then she went back out, played. She's playing the best she's ever played in her career.
Incredible. So when people go through to East West Health and they go through your programs, blood work, and then you guys start to diagnose or decide if stem cells would be a good fit for them at some point, yeah, or even immediately if that's something that would be useful, yeah.
Absolutely. And in some cases, we do send either exosomes that you can administer subcutaneously at home,
Yep.
or plasma. Cord plasma is another big treatment to clear out the plasma in your blood. So we
Very
do
cool.
there's a lot of regenerative medicine you can do in the comfort of your own home.
Yep. Incredible. Yeah, I hear the cord. I don't know if they're the best or the only, but the cord stem cells are great, right? I forget the reason why versus the other areas. Is that true? The umbilical cord ones?
Yeah, what we found is stem cells from your own body, if you can culture them and grow them into more cells, that's going to be more advantageous, but it's illegal in the United States still. But the cord stem cells, we work with a lab that, any woman who's willing to donate, it's got to be a cesarean birth, and the women are screened for health on both the paternal side, the maternal side. COVID vaccines, that tissue is not used if someone's had the COVID vaccine, just because we don't know the danger of having those proteins in the cord. But the stem cells in the cord are like young, fresh stem cells that haven't been exposed to the same environment that you and I have. I mean, that's the real benefit. So it gives us predictability in their outcomes.
Yes. Very cool. Wow, man, so much good stuff. My brain is just pulsing with good information. So I'm excited to review this and take action on some of it. Very cool, man. So if people want to connect with you guys, they can go to agelessfuture.com/peakhumans. They could also go to your website at the peptideexpert.com. Check out his book, The Peptide Blueprint. That sounds cool. I'm going to check that out as well. Is there anything else that people can connect with you on, or those are the best places?
Those are the best places. My
Yep.
YouTube channel is just Regan Archibald, and it's a new YouTube channel, and it is blowing up. So jump on there. Hopefully, you guys like it. I try to answer all the questions. I'm having a hard time keeping up now, but
Yeah.
but yeah, check that one out if you want to go
Nice.
deeper into this material.
And the podcast, Ageless Future podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Awesome, man. This was incredible, Reagan. I appreciate you being so generous and sharing all your wisdom.
Well, thank you for creating a movement around human potential, because I think we leave a lot of it on the table, and especially when people don't have their health, but when they don't know what their potential really is and they don't see a future
Mm.
in front of them, life's just not nearly as meaningful. And so you're creating more meaning in people's lives. So I really appreciate the work you do.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I have to send that also to one of your clients and one of your friends too, Jack Canfield, who I had on the
Yeah.
podcast recently. And he was my inspirations and mentors to get into this work. So thank you, Jack, for all that you've done. And Jack is one of your clients, right? He does work with
Jack
you guys.
is. Love Jack. Jack, you're amazing. Thank you, buddy.
Yep, absolutely. Amazing, Reagan. What's your departing message for everybody on the show?
Yeah, it's just small decisions right now. You know, do the hard thing today, and then tomorrow your life will be easier. And so, whatever that is, if that's go row 10,000 meters this weekend, Naeem, I'm going to be doing it. I'll show you my time. But, you know, just do these little things that are uncomfortable that you've never done before, and you'll be shocked at how well your body can adapt.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much, Reagan.
You got it.